99% of people use ChatGPT like a glorified search bar. They ask basic questions and they get basic answers, and they assume that's all that the AI can do. Well, today I'm going to show you every hidden feature, everything that this AI can do, and breaking down how you can go from an amateur prompter to a power user. I've spent thousands of hours using this platform, and honestly, there are a lot of things that you can actually do just with small, simple tweaks to go from just simply prompting and getting answers to automating your entire workflow using AI. By the end of this video, you're going to understand how ChatGPT actually works and how to pick the right model for the right task every single time. Okay, so the first thing that we need to understand is how ChatGPT actually works under the hood. We need to understand what context is, we need to understand what tokens are, and we need to understand how our prompts affect those. ChatGPT doesn't think like a normal human per se. It doesn't search things on Google. Instead, it calculates the statistically correct next word, commonly referred to as a token, based on massive pattern training, which means the artificial part of artificial intelligence is really just being able to guess pretty much every time. That's why it's artificial intelligence. It's because it doesn't really have any real intelligence. It's just guessing really well. One token is about 0.75 words. When you hear people say things like context window, what they're really referring to is how much of the actual conversation is the AI considering when giving its answers. Because it's basing its responses based on what it thinks is the statistically correct thing, to have every single thing you've ever said to ChatGPT fed into it would take forever. The next thing is choosing the right mode and the right model. There are different modes called intelligence, where we have instant, medium, and high, and we have the actual models themselves, GPT 5.6 Soul, 5.5, and some older ones. The goal here is to pick the right engine for the right tasks so you never waste any context. GPT 5.3 Instant is the best one for very minimal processing answers. If you want to ask what color the sky is, use this model. It's great for rapid drafting, fact checking, things like that. Asking 5.3 Instant a question like what came first, the chicken or the egg, gives a near instantaneous response. That's correct. There was zero latency and it was lightning fast. The next one we're looking at is GPT 5.6 Soul with a medium intelligence. This is for a step above what we just did, but still able to answer fairly complex questions. This is for coding. This is for something where the AI actually has to consider from multiple sources. So in this case, what is the best business to start if I have public speaking experience? And we give that to our medium model. It is going to take a moment to think about that because instead of just a simple answer of what came first, the chicken or the egg, it actually has to consider different variables. And if you actually click on this here, you can see exactly what it's thinking and how long it's working for. So we're going to get an actual response here in just a few simple seconds. And while it does take a little bit longer than the lightning fast speed, we do have a bit more technically in-depth answer. But on every stage, we can see the actual thinking, how long it takes, what it actually thinks in the process of getting to that answer. And with any ChatGPT answer, what we can do by clicking these three buttons here, more actions, we can actually view the sources. Where did it get the information? Branch in a new chat, meaning stop at this section and start an entirely new conversation. So that way, if you want to have conversations go in multiple directions, you can do that. So we could continue the conversation here of what business is the best for me. Or if I wanted to continue the chicken and the egg conversation, I could do that by hitting branch in a new chat. I could read aloud, self-explanatory, or if I wanted to, I could have it try again. On more complex models, it's automatically going to list its sources at the bottom here too. So if I click on those, we can actually see the actual sources on the right-hand side, and I could click through to any one of those to see exactly why it's doing that. For the models that think a little bit longer, you can get access to their sources at any time simply by hitting the sources button here, and it pulls up the thinking menu that I showed you earlier, as well as all the sources that it used to actually get the information for that answer. And in the actual response, if it's citing specific pieces of information here, in this case, communication remaining an unidentified workplace skill, we can see the actual source that it was pulling that specific block from. So this could be good for multi-step logic problems, long document analysis, things like that, where it can take a moment just to think about that and validate its assumptions before giving you the answer. And finally, GPT-5 Soul on high. Now, I know that there are a lot of different combinations we can go with here, but generally speaking, these are the three different types of ways that you're going to be using ChatGPT. You're going to be using it for quick answers, you're going to be using it for answers that require a little bit more thinking, and then you're going to be using it for very complex things. Talking to GPT 5.6 Soul is where you're going to be synthesizing massive amounts of code, maybe refactoring some files, pulling in specific databases, assembling a month-long multi-step itinerary for your next trip. So what this means is that a prompt like create a highly complex itinerary for my trip to Japan for 2 weeks next August is going to look very different in something like GPT 5.6 Soul on high, as opposed to using our instant model. Our instant model is probably going to give you an answer lightning fast, but it's not going to be very in depth, whereas this is going to pull flights, hotels, it's going to compare across websites. It's probably going to take a bit longer of time. Therefore, if I send that prompt on a really complex model, what we're going to see here is that it's going to bring together everything. So it's going to give us the initial response. It's going to say, hey, I'm building this as a first time, and then it's going to begin browsing websites for traveling, websites for blog posts, websites for things to do, flights, everything that you could possibly want. And we're going to show you in just a moment how the response that we get from this model differs from the response of an instant model. If I send that prompt into a very simple model, the response I'm going to get back reflects that. We're going to see that it knows things about Japan, but it's not actually pulling in any real information about accurate flight information, dates, things that are current. It's just pulling in, generally speaking, what it knows in Japan and putting that together as an itinerary and some things that it wants me to do next. Compared to the complex model, where on either side of me, we have lots of things going on, we can see that it is still working away at building this complex itinerary. It's not just pulling in basic facts and features about Japan, but it's actually pulling in relevant, up-to-date information to give me the best possible response. The response on the complex model is akin to what you would get sent by a travel agent via email, for instance. The entire itinerary, exactly what's being done, the food markets, all that stuff. Understanding the difference between a model that responds instantly versus a model that responds in 4 minutes and 14 seconds is already going to put you ahead of most basic users. But let's take this a step further. I'm now going to teach you a high-level prompt, but that's what most basic users can do. But anybody could swap between models. A real power user understands some frameworks that ChatGPT doesn't give you. One of my favorites is called CROC. Now, this is a 4-part formula that ensures high-quality outputs on the first try, because even if you use the right model, it can still give you responses that aren't exactly what you're expecting. So what does CROC stand for? The first one, context. Everything it needs to know. Who are you? What's your background situation? Any possible context about the information or thing that you're trying to build so that ChatGPT knows exactly what it has to do. One of the best things you can do above everything else on this list is just provide as much detailed context as possible relevant to what ChatGPT needs. The context in this prompt looks something like this. I need to build an HTML website that helps me with moving between 2 countries. I should be able to put in my country of origin, where I want to go, and it should give me all the information to help me. If possible, we could also add any files, create images, search the web, do deep research, link any GitHub repos, OpenAI's platform, Visualize, or even Atlassian Rovo. There are tons of different plugins that you can actually use to provide it the right context. So now it knows the background situation. The next part of the prompt, the R, is for role. You need to assign ChatGPT a role. By doing that, you're not just giving it a blank slate, but you're giving it context about who it's supposed to be. For me, in this case, I'm saying you're going to be a senior software engineer mixed with a travel advisor and a tax advisor. Those are the 3 different roles that I want it to actually pull from. So not only is it making its decisions based on what I've told it to do, but also who it's supposed to be. The next part, O, stands for objective. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be the exact order that you're putting this in. You don't have to go CROC every single time, but as long as it's included in the prompt somewhere, this ensures that all of the relevant information for ChatGPT is needed. So O is objective. What do you actually want it to do? I've just simply repeated build a website so I can run it locally in my browser. But in this specific prompt, I kind of put O at the beginning when I said I need to build an HTML website. And finally, C, constraints. What do we explicitly not want it to do? What format do we want it to actually be put out in? In this case, I've said HTML website, and so I've put that constraint in there. That way, we're not going to build a Next.js website, or we're not going to build an app. We're going to build an HTML website because that's a constraint that I've explicitly stated. I could also put in things here like formatting, word limits, things that the model should consider, and a specific constraint for this prompt could be make it look like it was designed by someone at Apple with a background and clean user interface design. Again, mixing in a little bit of the role plus constraint just so that this looks a lot nicer than if I had just said, give me a basic version that just does it properly. So I'll select GPT-5 Sol on high, and I'll hit send prompt. Now, while ChatGPT is actually building that, we're going to talk about how to take this another step higher. And that's by making sure that we don't have to repeat ourselves for specific conversations. In your settings tab in the bottom left-hand corner, there are a bunch of different things you can choose, but one of them is called personalization. And if you click on this, you're going to see that there's actually a lot more that you can do just beyond prompting a specific way. There are things like Do you want fast answers enabled? Do you want it to actually suggest prompts for you or follow-up prompts? Or are there additional custom instructions that you want to assign to every single prompt? This saves you from having to repeat yourself and makes it more personalized. But this personalization is definitely one of the best parts because it allows ChatGPT to understand what it should call you, what your occupation is, more about you, and most importantly, memory. This means that across multiple conversations, ChatGPT can determine what it sees as the most important information to memorize about you and actually store that for later. So this ensures that if you're starting a new conversation, not only is it not starting from zero, but it also has all of the relevant information so that if you make a reference to something that you previously talked about in a different chat, ChatGPT, if it deemed it important enough, could memorize that and ensure that it was brought over into the current conversation without you having to repeat yourself, which always saves you time. And by default, ChatGPT is going to try and be the smartest it can be. So web search, Canvas, ChatGPT voice, library search connector, that's all enabled by default. And they're all just tools specific to specific requests that you will actually have within ChatGPT. If you're looking up something relevant and it needs to search it on the web, this is enabled by default. If you need to create an image or adjust something, this is here as well. Something power users do as well is that they actually understand how to connect plugins properly. And these can be one of the biggest ways that you can actually take your ChatGPT game up another level. Because by connecting it directly to GitHub or to PDF or presentations or spreadsheets and all the different plugins that are available to allow you to work with ChatGPT across your favorite tools, you can simply allow it to connect ChatGPT directly to whatever you're working with. This was formerly the ChatGPT store, but as you can see now, we've got things like sorting by productivity, creativity, developer tools, business and operations. These are tons of different plugins that can connect directly to ChatGPT. So if I said to ChatGPT, hey, send an email to this specific colleague, and it was connected to your Gmail, ChatGPT could make that action on your behalf, make sure that you were okay with it, and send it automatically. So theoretically, instead of having to go to a bunch of different applications to execute a specific task, you could just talk to ChatGPT. And if it's got the plugins set up properly, which are pretty easy to do in just a few simple steps, you can get everything connected in one spot. Because as we found out, chat is one of the best interfaces for actually doing things. You can just simply type it. And with plugins and MCP, which we won't get into, it allows it to just understand exactly what you're requesting and do it seamlessly. In addition to that, real power users understand the value of skills. Skills are basically pre-packaged components and pieces of knowledge that ChatGPT can pull from when it needs to understand how to do something specific. So if I'm asking how to build a website, if there is a skill that allows ChatGPT to understand exactly how I can build the website in the specific way that I want, well, it can pull from that skill. Right now, I don't have any here, but all I would have to do is either upload it from my computer, create it with a chat, or create it with the editor, where I simply describe what the skill does and provide a bunch of details so that when ChatGPT sees that, oh, I need to understand or answer a gardening question, or I need to understand and answer a coding question, it can pull from that specific skill that I've already predetermined. Again, that's just another way that ChatGPT saves time without having to repeat itself. ChatGPT also allows you to actually group things into specific sectors called projects. So let's say, for example, that you want to have 10 different conversations with ChatGPT around one specific topic and all have them kind of reference each other. Well, instead of just having memory remember, randomly based on what ChatGPT thinks is the most important into your different conversations, instead, by actually having something in a project, ChatGPT can understand, oh, everything in this project is related to this one specific thing. So everything in this project should be considered when starting a new chat in that project. So if I was trying to work on one specific project for work or for school, it doesn't matter. If I go and create a project in here and I say, yeah, Copenhagen trip, as it actually says here, I can then group all of my chats around Copenhagen trip, and then nothing about the Copenhagen trip will be referenced outside of that project. And every chat that I make inside that project will have all of the references from the other chats. If that makes sense. If you don't want to have one specific project, but would rather just have one specific chat that's kind of pre-trained, that's where GPTs comes in handy, where you can actually custom train your own GPT, where the chat already begins pre-contextualized. So instead of having to set up a project and then give it context from using it, you could just have something that already understands what exactly you're looking for. And there's a bunch of them here that are already ready to go. Things like Scholar GPT, Monday, Dolly, Hot Mods, a bunch of these different ones. Personally, I like to build my own custom GPTs because these are, ones that are used by other people. So what they actually get is not necessarily always tuned to my needs, but by creating your own custom GPT. Personally, I like to make my own custom GPTs. Most of the ones in the GPT store aren't necessarily going to give me the specific responses that I'm looking for, but I always recommend them as an option just so that you can understand how the different GPTs work. You can also create images with ChatGPT, which is currently one of the world's most premier models, and the ability to actually edit, adjust things on the fly can honestly save you more time than just doing it yourself in Photoshop, because Photoshop requires the knowledge of how to use Photoshop. And while it is an exceptionally powerful tool, many people are now opting for simple AI adjustments where they could circle something and say, hey, replace this or get rid of this blemish, things like that. And just like how custom GPTs prevent you from repeating yourself, scheduled tasks are ways that you can get ChatGPT to automatically schedule things like scheduling tasks, reminders, or monitoring for updates. So in this case, I could say, send me fresh nature Vancouver area plans every Thursday, obviously showing where I live, personalized daily briefings with updates about the topics I care about most, scan my emails and let me know anything that needs my attention. It's a way that ChatGPT can just give you what you're looking for on a regular basis, in both chat mode or in work mode. And it seems like after what feels like quite a long time, we have the entirety of this website done. Atlas, the global move planner. Download the complete website, open it in Chrome, Edge, Safari, or Firefox. No server installation account or API key is required, and it includes everything. So let's go and take a look at it. It only took just a few minutes, but this entire website was built for us with all of these countries to all of these countries. And there you go. You don't need a degree in prompt engineering to use ChatGPT properly. You just need to understand how to select the right model, provide structured context, and how to use the tools that are readily available to you, such as persistent memory. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you create something awesome with it. My name is Josh, and I'll see you in the next one.